Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You are mighty God, mighty God. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Mighty one. One who sits high but looks way down low. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You are good, you are kind, you are more than these. Lost for words, trying to describe you. Elohim, Elion, Ale Shelevi. The greatness is all I see. There is nothing you cannot do. There's no mountain you cannot move. If you have said it, then you will do it. 'Cause you have a track record of keeping your word. And you're not about to stop doing it now. All over Abaye, all over Abaye, Shebi walo choro, Shebi yile choro, all over Abaye.
By the blood that you shed, we have overcome. This charge that acquitted for life, Then you gave us the right to your holy name. Yeah. The center of power and strength. There is nothing you cannot change, Baba. There's no bondage you cannot break. If you have said it, then you will do it. You have a track record of keeping your word, and you're not about
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you're watching me from around the world. My name is Shumakin Loton. Welcome to the SA Show. This is where we spark meaningful conversations on different topics like leadership, career, family, business, and sometimes even politics. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build intimacy in a marriage. And our guest is Mrs. Adetutu Oshofowora. If you're watching me right now and you can hear my voice, please leave me a comment in the comment box, in the chat box before we get started. Let's see who is here. Hello, Tolulokpe Shoboyejo. We need to change that name. We need to change that name to Tolulokpe Oluwole. Welcome, good evening, everyone. Our guest is actually not here. I don't know why, but we're going to continue. Our guest is not here for today. So, building intimacy in a marriage, maybe I'm going to be taking this topic by myself. I guess it's going to be interactive. If you have any questions regarding the topic, please leave your questions. Yes, you need to change it. We are going to find you. We're going to find you. Leave your questions in the comment box because our guest is not here. We've tried to reach her. Actually, we communicated about 2 hours ago, and since then we've not heard from her. So I'm not sure what's going on. We pray that she's okay, or sometimes it could be network challenges. So we're going to be talking about building intimacy in marriage. I'm going to be leading this session. So just bear with me. I'm not a relationship expert, but I guess we can rub minds. We can talk about different things that affect intimacy and then talk about some solutions. I know that as a person, I have been married for how many years now? I don't even know. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give away my years of marriage. I know some of you know it, but I've been married for quite some time now. Let's just say over 10 years. So I do have some experiences. Yes, I heard from her about 2 hours ago. So I pray she's okay. Yes, we pray she's okay. Welcome, Modeniola. Wow, I love that name. Modeniola Aro. Welcome. Good evening. Where are you watching from? Can you please write your location? Welcome, everybody. Also having a little bit, my network is not so strong tonight. I don't know why, but we're going to go ahead with this session. So we want to talk a little bit about how to build intimacy in marriage. I remember that before I got married, I had this list. You know, we all kind of like fantasize the type of marriage we want. We want good marriages, a marriage whereby the husband and the wife, they are transparent, they love each other all day, 24/7, you know, all those kind of fantasy. But the reality is that a lot of times, by the time people get married, they begin to see each other's flaws. Life gets in the way. Either you start having children, you're busy with your career, you have health challenges. There's always one thing or the other that would prevent you, if you are not intentional, that will prevent couples from building that intimacy. There's always, maybe sometimes it could even be external factors like extended family. It could be your work. It could be something bothering you, you know. So if you are not intentional about building that intimacy, it's going to be really, really hard. And I just want to share some life experiences with us in terms of my own personal experience and also experiences that I've garnered over the years just from listening to different people talk. So let's first of all define what intimacy means. Intimacy just means that when two or more people, you are in sync, you kind of, maybe your heart is working together. You know how you are about to do something and then your husband preempts you or your wife preempts you and you say, wow, our hearts are in sync. Intimacy is spending time with each other, and in the process of trying to put food on the table, trying to build a better life for yourself, intimacy is actually the last thing on your mind. So one of the things that prevent intimacy, like I've said it before, but I'll say it again. One of the things that prevent intimacy is the fact that, like, people don't know how to handle life pressures. So you go to work, you wake up in the morning, Monday to Friday, sometimes depending on where you work, you leave home at 6 a.m., right? And then maybe you come back home, especially for the man, maybe the man comes back home at 8 p.m. Trust me, intimacy is the least thing on his mind. So I'm going to talk from the perspective of the man and perspective of the woman so that we can all reach a common ground. And if you have any questions as I'm speaking, please leave your comments or leave your questions in the comment box. Welcome, Modeniola Aroweshegbe from Ibadan. All right, so when the man comes back home in the evening, intimacy is the least thing on his mind, but the duty of a wife is to make the home comfortable for the man, make it welcoming. We've heard stories of a lot of men that even after the day's job, they don't go home straight, or sometimes they go home and then they just pick up their car keys 5 minutes after. They go out to meet their friends, or sometimes some men are known to go to bars or anywhere outside the home because the home is just not conducive for them. So one of the ways that you can actually build intimacy in a home, especially from the perspective of a woman, is that make sure that before your husband comes home, you make the home conducive for him as much as possible. I know we women, we are busy as well. Create an environment, an atmosphere of love, an atmosphere whereby that person can feel like, okay, this is somewhere I can go back to decongest, not just somewhere to go back to sleep. And then one thing, yes, welcome, Wumi Akintoke. And then another thing that can also build intimacy is by setting, well, my pastor taught us this strategy that we can build intimacy by creating time once a week. You have to agree with your spouse and then create at least 15 minutes once a week that you both are deliberate, the husband and the wife. You sit down together, you create that time. Maybe you agree that every Thursday we're going to be talking about anything we want to talk about every Thursday at 5 p.m. or whatever time that works for you. So this is a strategy that my pastor taught us in church, and I'm just sharing it with you because I've shared it with quite a few people and I know it works. This is especially for people that find it difficult to establish rapport. And guess what? In the dating stage, you usually have all these butterflies flying in your stomach. And then once you get married, there's this law called the law of familiarity. And the law of familiarity simply states that the more you see a person, the higher the tendency for you to take that person for granted. So you are married 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You kind of like take each other for granted. There's really nothing. The man is not chasing you anymore. And then you two, like, okay, the butterflies are now gone. What else? What else are we doing here? So it requires intentionality. And if the rapport is reduced, especially for people that have kids, one thing that women tend to do is that once they start having kids, they transfer all that love that they used to give their husband, or they transfer a significant amount of that love to the kids. So you go back to the kids, you give the kids all the love, and by the time you take care of the kids, the whole day is gone. You are tired, you just retire in bed the next day. Before you know what is going on, you are creating a gap. The gap will not be visible at first, but over time, it will keep getting wider, and before you know what is going on, the intimacy is gone. If you listen to the news recently, you would have heard the news of a celebrity couple that were married for 27 years. I don't really want to mention their names here. They were married for 27 years. Everyone thought that everything was going on well in their marriage. And then at the end of the day, you just wake up one day to hear that this couple have filed for divorce. The wife filed for a divorce. And you are just wondering what's going on, what has led to this, and that is part of not having that intimacy. I read a news headline that said that the husband said that he lived in a loveless marriage, and you begin to wonder how a marriage can go from two people being in love to two people just cohabitating. So lack of intimacy is a serious problem, and it's something that we need to be intentional about. So I gave you I gave you the 2 tips already, and the second one I shared is that have 15 minutes that you're sitting down with your spouse. If you're not doing that already, or if rapport is a problem, 15 minutes that you are sitting down with your spouse each week. Set a specific day and time, and then sit sit together. And one key thing about that session that you are having with your spouse, even if you have kids, make sure you put the kids in bed. Make sure that the kids, because sometimes the kids can be really selfish, they can be really selfish, but you need to know that one day those kids will leave home. They're going to leave home and it's just going to be you and your husband. So you have to find a way to kind of like build that intimacy while the kids are around, so that when the kids leave the house, you don't suddenly find yourself in an environment whereby you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what to talk to my husband about, or I don't know what to talk to my wife about. So you build that intimacy while the kids are home. Now, I was talking about the 15 minutes. I really want to emphasize on that. Create that time to speak with your spouse once a week. And this should be a joint effort. Now, because a lot of women tend to talk more than men, most times men internalize things, and this is not a general thing, but I'm just using most men. They tend to internalize things. So you give your husband that opportunity to talk. Hey, honey, what has been going on in your life? How was work? Typically, if you ask someone how was work, the person can say, oh, work was fine, especially for a man. Then you're like, what was fine about the work? Go into the details, show that you are interested. And one of the things, I know one of my friends would complain that her husband doesn't like her pressing the phone while he's talking to her. It's actually a sign of disrespect. So each time you sit down to talk to your spouse, either as a man or as a woman, especially if you know that you are pressed for time, is not something that you do often, make sure that you are giving that person undivided attention. Undivided attention tells me that you respect me. It also tells me that you trust and love me. It tells me that I'm the most important person in your life at that moment, especially. So you want to give your spouse undivided attention. When you're talking to your spouse, that's not the time to be chatting away with your friends. Work out your schedule and make sure that you create that time. The more you talk, the more you seem to bond together. And when you are talking, when your husband is talking, for example, give him room to express himself. Don't jump into conclusion. Don't try to overtake the conversation. Once that person is done talking, then you can then table your own matter. And that way you begin to build that intimacy. Another way you can build intimacy in marriage is by setting date night or date events. I'll use my own example. I live in a place whereby I don't have family members. I don't know anyone. I basically live just by myself and my husband, myself, and our 2 kids. So it made, like when the kids were younger, it really made it hard for us to go out on date night or treat ourselves because there was no one to watch the kids. Guess what we did? One of the things that we used to do back then was that we'll take time off. You know, we agree on a particular day. We can say, you know what, Thursday next week, you're not going to work. And I'll say, okay, no problem, Thursday next week. So once the kids are in daycare or they go to school, you are by yourself. That's your own date day. It doesn't have to be at night. Don't wait until night time. So we create our own date day and, you know, we do whatever we need to do. Sometimes we go out, sometimes we just stay indoor and we're fine with it. So do whatever works for you in your marriage. Welcome everyone. As you are joining us, please leave me your name and your location in the comment box. Our guest is not here today. We're supposed to be talking about building intimacy in marriage. So I kind of like said, you know what, I'm going to take this session and we're just discussing. If you'd like to contribute to the conversation, please just leave a comment for me. If you have any specific question regarding this matter, please leave your question in the comment box. And also, if you have not subscribed, subscribe to this channel, invite people. So as I was saying, back in the days, welcome Feminix, back in the days, that's what we did. We took leave and we were fine with it. So whatever your own personal situation is, if you need to take leave to spend time with your spouse, take leave. All those, don't say I'm too busy. Don't say that, because time, each day that you are spending, you are getting closer to the end of that marriage, because that marriage will end one day. You are not going to be married forever. And our prayer is that we all live long, you know, we all live long. So by my own calculation, sometimes I would say, oh my God, even if I live till 120, right? And I'm married to my husband for 90 years. Each day gives me less days that I'm spending with my husband. So it's important for me to know that I need to build that relationship with him now. And when you're married, it's something to cherish. You leave your parents behind, you leave your siblings behind, and you say you are clinging to this one person. So you must do everything within your power and your capacity to make it work. We've talked about, there are different conversations online about, okay, if the woman especially is the one interested in building the marriage, usually is the woman that is attending relationship events. If I tell everyone to leave their names now, I'm sure that we're probably 90% women. Women are the ones usually looking for ways to make the home better. But as a woman, you also know that there's a power that God has given you, and that power is embedded in the wisdom. You need to gain wisdom, because if you know the character of your husband, if you take time to study your husband, you will be able to work with him. You'll be able to bring him on board. You'll be able to table your matter. You'll be able to build that intimacy that you are looking for. Men are naturally wired. Most men, I'm not going to say all men, most men are naturally wired to provide for their families. So they are not creations of emotions compared to a lot of women. So you need to know that fact when you are dealing with a man. And for you to be able to get what you want, you need to bring that man, look for the time that his mood is okay, and then speak in a soft voice, not in a fighting voice. Men don't understand nagging. If you nag your man from now till eternity, nothing will happen. Let me give you a practical example. So in the past, back in the days when I didn't understand so much, let's say I am not happy with my husband. Maybe he did something that I didn't like. So instead of me to actually express to him and tell him and say, you know what, you did XYZ, I would adopt silence. When a woman is silent in the house and then he's talking to me, I'm giving him monosyllabic answers, or maybe I'm not even talking at all. And then he notices, right? And he comes to me and say, oh, are you okay? And as a woman, I would say, I'm okay. And then he's like, oh, okay. And he just walks away. At that moment, I'm like, what? How can you just walk away? But if it was a woman, if a woman sees you in that mood and the woman says, are you okay? And you tell the woman you're okay, the woman would have that instinct to immediately say, your mood, your eyes, your body language is saying something different. But most men don't pick that. Most men, they will not pick that. So if you are telling a man that you are okay, and so he takes it for face value for the most part. Oludolapo Abokede or Abokede. I hope I didn't say that wrongly. Welcome, Oludolapo. So the man, he takes that for face value and he keeps doing whatever he needs to do. Of course, over time, if you've been married for 3, 4, 5 years, the man will begin to notice some trends and he will know that, oh, when I ask my wife, is she okay? And she's showing some certain attitude, then she's not truly okay. If the man cares, if the man does not care, he will just say, I thought you said you are okay. So I started acting like you are okay. So one thing that I have personally adopted, because I know that we only have one shot at this thing called life. I only have, once you are, maybe by the time you turn 70, there's really not much left. So now, if you keep fighting from now until 70, please, when do you want to enjoy your life? So me, I always welcome Oludolapo Abokede from Minneapolis. Thank you for tuning in to the SA show. I hope you have subscribed. It will be my honor for you to be a full-fledged subscriber of the SA show. Welcome. So if you are fighting, please, how many years do you want to fight? And remember that the older you become, the less excited you are about things of life. So if you get married at the age of 25 and you are fighting this man till you are 40, 15 years gone already out of the time that you're supposed to be enjoying. No, it's not right. So, one policy of mine is that I have limited time to spend on earth, and I'm going to maximize every opportunity that I have to spend with my husband, to spend with my kids, even to interact with my friends. So, it's important for me that if my husband is not making that move, I am making that move. Of course, I know that it's not good when love is one-sided. But another thing that I would also like to share is the fact that the way we perceive love is different from the way our spouses perceive love. And one key thing that a lot of us need to understand is the love language of our spouses. If you know the love language of your spouse, you love your spouse the way he or she wants to be loved, not the way you want to love them. I hope I'm communicating. So if you okay, let me give you an example of how men and women are just different. So sometimes I tell my husband that I want to lose weight, and he says, fine, this is great. And then he never tells me that, oh, have you done your exercise today? Or you're doing this, you're doing that. So one day I asked him, I said, oh, you're not even encouraging me to lose weight. I told my husband that. And he goes, I'm encouraging you. I'm your number one cheerleader. And I'm like, number one cheerleader, how? And he goes, well, I don't disturb you when you exercise. I bought you all the equipment you need to lose weight. That's my way of supporting you. And as a woman, one thing that we expect when someone is supporting us, one thing we want is that person say, okay, wake up. It's time to go and exercise. Oh, okay. You've done that exercise. You need to drink this. You need to eat that. That's the way most women want to be appreciated or wants to be encouraged or motivated. We like someone that will talk or, be our cheerleader physically, like we're seeing it, that person is showing. But men are action people. Another way that men communicate is just by doing those things. Let me give you another practical example of something that happened recently. So I was telling my husband that my back really hurts. Like I'm having excruciating pain in my back. And he goes, maybe it's the work chair that you use. I'm like, yeah, I'm suspecting that chair. That anytime I sit on the chair, my back really, really hurts. And he said, oh, okay, no problem. He didn't say anything after that. And that was like 9 p.m. that we had that conversation. And then the next day, I woke up like I would normally do. I walked to my workstation and I found a brand new chair. And I'm like, what? Like, seriously. So men are like action people. They just act. They don't talk much. If it was a woman, the woman would say 1,000,001 things that she would do to help, and she would carry you along. A woman, loves to talk. So if you take the way you like to do things, if you use that perspective on your spouse, it's going to give you a feeling that that person does not love you. It's going to give you a feeling that that person is just not excited. For example, some of us complain that our spouses don't get excited, but all we need to do most times is usually to sit down and study the love language of that person. And it's not just one way for women. I already said that love that person the way they want to be loved, right? So men should also take that step to love their wives the way they want to be loved. So women love sincerity, women love praise, women love someone that will give them attention. So men should learn that too. But what I'm trying to say is that we cannot get 100%. So the most important thing is that both parties are working towards the success of that marriage or towards the success of that relationship, and then you meet in the middle. You cannot always agree on everything. And when you have disagreement, don't attack the person. Don't start abusing or cursing your husband or your wife. It's important that we understand that the words of our mouth, they carry weight. The words of our mouth carry a lot of weight, and the words of our mouth are not ordinary. So when you curse your spouse or when you say derogatory things to the person, things that are demeaning, things that will bruise that person's ego, you are gradually creating a crack in your marriage. Oluwatosin Arodudu, welcome. Yes, so basically, intimacy is hard work. It's something that is present, continuous. It's not something that you would do for a season and then leave it. It's something that you continuously invest. You continuously look for ways to build intimacy. One of the things that I also personally do is that we play games. So when you play games together, a big type of game that we love is Scrabble. You sit down, you exercise your brain, you laugh. Oh, I beat you, you beat me, you laugh over it. Or you play Ludo. I don't know how many people know Ludo. Activities like that. Look for activities that you enjoy doing together. I was telling my husband the other day, I was taking a walk, so I saw an elderly couple. They were biking together. I took a picture. I sent it to my husband. I said, this could be us. So now he's planning to get a bike so that we can go biking together. So we both enjoy biking, but he has just not gotten his own bike. So you need to create time for those things. Don't be too busy. I don't understand. How can you be busy from January to December? Like, you're just busy. You can't schedule a vacation. You can't schedule leave. You can't just stay home on a Saturday. Cancel all appointments, cancel all clients. If you're a business person, don't go to work. Just spend time with your husband, because that intimacy, you can't imagine it to happen. You have to work for it to happen. So those are the things that I believe, that those are some of the few things that I believe that you can do to build intimacy in a marriage. So I want to go through some of the questions that we had for our guest speaker. She's not here, unfortunately. We hope she's okay. We had a conversation with her about 2.5 hours ago, but she's not here. So one of the things that one of the questions we were supposed to ask her was that, is love enough to sustain a marriage? And what are the things needed to have a peaceful marriage? Let me address that peaceful part of marriage a little bit. Like I said, I'm not a relationship expert, so please don't quote my words for it, but I think that I do have something to share based on my personal experience and the experiences of other people. So when we're talking about peace, the first thing that comes to my own mind is, what is the meaning of peace? What does peace mean to you? So when you come home, you know, there's this tranquility you experience in the atmosphere, and there's no argument, there's no tense environment, everything is just flowing. And in that type of environment, you can think better, you can work better. That's when your husband will come home and say, honey, well, I got the result of my performance evaluation at work, and it was outstanding. You know, that's one thing we do here. So performance evaluation, it was outstanding. Yes, that's an evidence of a peaceful home. Like, when your home is peaceful, everything just falls in place. And sometimes an individual might be doing certain things that will be sabotaging the peace of the home without that person knowing. So it could be the man, it could be the husband. One way to guarantee peace in our home, especially as a Christian, is to make sure that you are reading the Word of God. I noticed that I have a lot of books, and then sometimes I pick out one particular book that I've had in a long time and I've not read it. I pick up the book and it's like fresh wine. It's like fresh revelation. It's like I've never read the book before. Like, things that I saw in the book, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize that it was written this way. That's the same way in our homes. If you pick up your Bible or you pick up your Quran or whatever spiritual book you use, there has to be something that is rejuvenating your mind and it's helping your attitude. I particularly love the book of Proverbs. One thing I have learned over the years, and I'm really grateful to God for, is how to measure my responses especially when I'm upset, when I'm not happy about a particular situation. How am I responding to my husband? How am I receiving his feedback as well? Because when we receive feedback, sometimes we tend to be defensive. So if my husband is telling me, oh, Sean, you did XYZ, I think that you should have done it B, C, D. In the past, I used to be very defensive. I would defend myself and I would find 1,000,001 reasons why I was right. But the more I began to read my Bible, the more I began to meditate on the Word of God, it taught me that number one, when someone is giving you a feedback, the best thing that you should do is to keep quiet. And when the person finishes, you can say thank you, especially when you know that the person has your best interest at heart. So now, why would my husband not have my best interest at heart? That's the first question I'm asking myself. And I know that whatever it is the number one person that is, there for me. He wants me to do well. So if he's giving me feedback, the best thing I can do is to listen. And this is something that I had to learn over time. And guess what? When you start listening to feedback without being defensive, the person will trust you more. The person will know that, oh, I can always go to my spouse and express exactly how I feel. Sometimes you might do something to your spouse and your spouse does not even tell you until 3 months after or 4 months after. Or sometimes they just infuse certain words into a conversation down the line and you are wondering, why didn't you tell me about this? Usually it's because that person knows that you were not ready for that feedback. Or sometimes as a smart person or as a person that is filled with godly wisdom, you understand that it is not every issue that you pick on. It is not every issue that you react to. Sometimes there are some things that are done in the home or done to you by your spouse that you just overlook, So it's not everything that you're going to flare up for. It's not every offense that you recount. Sometimes you just have to let go of certain things. So to guarantee peace in your home, you have to embed yourself in the Word of God. And also in books, personal development books, there are really great books out there that would help to shape your character, because when you are shaped from the inside out, that's when you begin to blossom and your spouse begins to see a new you, a rebutted you that would encourage peace in the home. Another way that you can build peace in a Christian home, especially because I'm a Christian, so I'm going to talk from a Christian perspective, is also to go out there, attend programs like this. So our topic today is building intimacy in a marriage. If our guest was here, she would have shared her own experiences and the things that she learned in her marriage, and probably from the experiences of other people that she has been coaching and counseling. So we should be open to learning from other people. One thing that I did in 2019, for example, we did, my husband and I, with some other couples, we went through a relationship and marriage book. In fact, we didn't even finish it because we were supposed to finish it last year. It took us a whole year, and we were doing this twice a month, every other Sunday. We meet with this couple, we read and we discuss. Because when you read and discuss with other people, other couples, other godly couples, other couples that are committed to building their relationships, you begin to learn from their own experiences. There's something that says that iron sharpeneth iron. When you move with the wise, you will surely become wise. When you move with people that are committed to building their marriages, your marriage would also be built. When you move with people that are committed to maintaining peaceful atmosphere in their marriages, your own marriage would also experience peaceful atmosphere. Another way is also to try to resolve your conflict internally as much as possible. One of the things that break marriages is when we find solace or advice in other people outside of the marriage. So something happens in your home, instead of you to sit with your husband, you're running out there to maybe talk to your favorite co-worker or your aunt in the street, or maybe your mom. Sometimes it could be your mom, sometimes it could be your dad. That's not the first step. There are certain rules that the Bible talks about when it comes to conflict resolution. When someone offends you, the Bible says that the first thing is that you talk to the person. That's the first thing you do. You don't go and report someone to an outsider without first trying to talk to that person. And now I've heard a lot of women say, my husband is someone that is unapproachable. He's unapproachable, but you keep having kids. Please, there are times that you can utilize to, negotiate with a man and say, you know what, no, we're not doing this until we talk about XYZ. There are issues that we need to trash out, right? So you take advantage of certain moments to be able to trash some things out. So when your spouse offends you, I'm trying not to use the word husband. I'm trying to stay neutral, because it's both ways. It shouldn't be one-sided, because once it's one-sided, that other person tends to get tired at some point. No matter how good your heart is, if you're always the one that is trying to make up with the other person, if you're always the one saying sorry, whether you are wrong or not, it's tiring and it's burdensome. So it has to be both ways. So when your spouse offends you, the first thing to do is to talk to your spouse. Now, if your spouse is busy, if your spouse is the supposedly unapproachable time, you are the woman. Pray and ask God to give you the wisdom on how to start that conversation. That's one thing you need to learn. If it's the man too, pray that God will give you the wisdom to start that conversation with your wife. There are some difficult conversations. I understand that it's not easy to face that person to talk, but if there's an issue at home, talk to your spouse first before you report that person to another person. Now, if you talk to your spouse and your spouse is not changing, because some men say, oh, I've told her not to do X, Y, Z, but for the last 5 years that we've been in this marriage, she keeps on doing it. She keeps on doing it. She keeps on doing it. Guess what? You need to start thinking of, especially if it's an habit. An habit is not something that we gain in a day. So you can't just wake up one day and expect that that person should change. Think of your children. Your children, do you know how many times you tell them, stop doing this, stop doing that? You don't get tired. You keep on talking about it in love. Let that person know that, yes, this is a problem, but no, come what may, I still love you. Attack the problem, not the person. Don't cuss the person out. Don't remind the person that that's how you did last year. That's how you did 10 years ago. Don't remind the person. If the person is exhibiting a certain character that you don't like at the moment, deal with that thing at that moment and let it be. Now, let's say it's something precarious or dangerous, or maybe the person is putting you and the family in harm's way, and you feel strongly that you need to take that issue outside of the home. Either you want to see a counselor, either you want to talk to your pastor or whoever you trust, right? If you feel like that's the way, please let the person know. You can suggest, okay, a neutral person. Maybe you start from a neutral person. So a neutral person will be one individual that you both respect. And be careful how you report your spouse to your parents, for example, because usually what happens is if you report your spouse to your parents or your sibling, they don't forget. They don't forget. And by the time you make up with your spouse, you are still lovey-dovey. They are still dragging. They are still remembering. They are still carrying that hurt on your behalf. And it will affect the way they respect your spouse. It will affect the way they trust your spouse. So you need to be very careful when you're trying to resolve conflict, when you're trying to resolve certain situations in the home. So try to look for a neutral person, preferably maybe someone like a trained counselor. I am not a counselor, so don't come to me. But I'm just giving advice anyway. So try to look for a neutral person that you both respect. Don't go to a marriage counselor that your spouse does not approve of. And for example, if you are a woman, try to avoid a marriage counselor of the opposite gender. If you are a man and you feel strongly to talk to a marriage counselor, try to avoid a marriage counselor that is of the opposite gender. It's just, a thing just to be on the side of caution. No, I'm not a marriage counselor. If you want to talk about business, you can come to me. Yes, we can talk about business, or if you want to talk about personal development, that's fine. But I'm not a marriage counselor. Welcome, our Minister for Agriculture. Thank you, and thank you for tuning in. So as I was saying, try to look for a neutral person outside the home, but try as much as possible to hint your spouse that you'll be talking to this person, you thinking that something needs to be done about that particular issue. And depending on the reaction of your spouse, you know whether to proceed with that move or not. And then sometimes maybe there are some certain situations that you need specific advice on and you really don't want your spouse to know. You can reach out to trusted friends or people that you know have impeccable character and people that are not rash. There are some people, when you tell them your story, they'll just go, if it is me, I won't take that though, please. If that's the type of people you'll be talking to, you never experience peace in your home, because words matter. Words carry a lot of weight. The words that people speak into your life, they matter. They matter. Oludolapo Abokede. Hey, I hope I'm saying this right. If your spouse is unapproachable, that could be some sign of emotional abuse. Usually, if you are Yoruba, Yorubas would say that Tioba nidi obirin ki je kumolu, which simply means that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's a law in physics. So if someone is unapproachable, usually there is a beings of emotions. Yes, in Africa, or specifically Nigeria, where we grew up, a lot of men back in the days were trained not to show their emotions. So they tend to conceal a lot of things inside them. But it's your duty as a wife. And that's one of the things, this is a discussion for another day, especially before you choose someone, you have to study. You have to have minimum standard. At least the man that is unapproachable did not wake up one day to become unapproachable. He's probably doing that before the marriage. And let's say, for example, the man is not doing that before the marriage, and after the marriage, the person now becomes, the person goes from approachable to unapproachable. You have to try to trace the reason. There's always a reason. There's always a reason why someone is aggressive. There's always a reason. And when the faster you can trace that reason, the more you can get help, the more you can solve that problem. So nobody just wakes up to be unapproachable. Sometimes when the kids say, oh, mommy, you are strict, you are this, I'm like, well, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You don't wash the plates. And I told you one time, 2 times, 3 times. And the 4th time, I'm going to, be a little firm and firmer, and then maybe it can lead into a yelling episode that you don't like. So there's always a reason for certain actions. Mommy don't just wake up cranky. Mommy don't just, like, I can't be okay now. Like, you did everything right, and I'm just cranky at you. No, it's not possible. So I tell my kids, if you want mommy to be the loving, gentle woman that you would love 100% of the time, then you need to play your own part. Another thing that we all do, or most people do, is, okay, you're blaming your spouse for everything. Oh, he did this, she did that. What about you? Have you ever sat down to think about the things that you're doing to jeopardize the peace of the marriage? Or you think it takes 2 to tango? People don't just go crazy or ballistic for no reason. And even if they do, remember that you can always choose your reaction. You can always choose your words. You can choose your action, no matter what is going on around you, no matter how aggressive that other person is, no matter how unapproachable the other person is. You can always choose your reaction. So, like I said, if you want peace in your home, yes, our words matter. If you want peace in your home, please, 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 don't carry home matters outside without first trying to talk to the person. A good relationship counselor should always ask you, have you talked to your spouse? Does your spouse know that these are the things that you truly, truly don't like, depending on the situation? So, because everyone's situation is different. Everyone is different. There are no 2 marriages that are the same. But I would always say that The principles that govern life, the principles that govern marriage, the principles that govern success, they are universal. So there are some basic things that are applicable in all marriages, and these are what I'm sharing today. So we've talked about, can someone do a recap for us on what we talk about for bringing peace in your home, creating good atmosphere? If someone is yelling, that's not the time to be yelling. It's the time to keep quiet and just listen. The more the person yells, by the time you keep quiet, the person too will bring down their tone, and always attack the issue, not the person. So let me go through one more question that we were supposed to ask. Okay, so this is a great question. Some people ask that, is lack of intimacy enough to break a marriage? Okay, so let's address this. Is lack of intimacy. And when we talk about intimacy, it means different things to different people, right? So the lack of intimacy, is it enough to break a marriage? I guess it depends on individuals. Fine, the Bible says God hates divorce, and nobody goes into marriage with the intention of divorcing or breaking up. But certain things happen in different homes that one of the spouses might decide that, you know what, I need to exit this marriage. What I would say to that is, before you decide to exit a particular situation, even jobs, some people don't have the patience of waiting until retirement. They would say, oh, I want to go into business, or I want to move on to other things. Whatever decision that you want to make, and you get to that point where you're saying, you know what, I'm walking away, I'm breaking off, I'm stopping this, right? Ask yourself, before you do that, before you take that decision, ask yourself, will I be happy with my decision in 20 years? Because most times when people decide to end a marriage, most times, you ask them, they can say, oh, yeah, I'm fine with my decision, and so forth and so forth. But sometimes deep in the back of their minds, they would know that, maybe if I had been patient enough, maybe if I had said this differently, maybe, there will be a lot of maybes, usually, especially in a divorce that is not fueled by domestic violence. I would not encourage anyone to stay in an environment where your life is at risk, because we don't have duplicates to life, and nobody should die at the hands of their spouse for any reason whatsoever. But when there's no domestic violence, if it's just you're not listening to me, you're not a prayer. I heard a story about a man that said that he dreamed of a wife that was prayerful. I wanted my wife to be prayerful. And then when we got married, she wasn't as prayerful as I thought she would be. I mean, come on. You can't change anyone. If you're trying to change someone, if you know that your wife is not prayerful before you got married, how do you expect that person must be prayerful by force? And listen to this. If you want someone to change, it is not by telling them what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do. One thing I absolutely love my husband for is that he models what he wants. So if my husband wants you to clean the house, for example, I'm a good wife, but sometimes I don't clean. If my husband wants you to clean the house, he will not come and tell you that, go and clean the house. No, he will take the vacuum, he will start cleaning gently. And you too, if you have brain, you will pick it up like, okay, let me to do something. So you model the action that you want. You don't tell people what to do, because nobody, we are all adults, right? Nobody wants to be told what to do. In fact, by the time you now tell the person what to do, that's when the person will now feel like the ego is bruised, and the person will now be adamant. So there are certain things that wisdom will tell you that you cannot control an adult, but you model that character that you are looking for. Something also says, monkey see, monkey do. And children model this perfectly. You cannot preach to children. Yeah, they can be scared of you based on the fact that you're an adult, but usually kids act exactly the same way as their parents or the adults in charge, any adult that has authority over them. That's why you see that if you leave the house and you come back to, you see kids pretend playing. They say, oh, let's play daddy and mommy. And sometimes I hear my son talking to my daughter in the way that I would talk, So they try to mimic me, they try to mimic their dad. So people are perfect copiers. So if there's a particular behavior that you're looking for in your spouse, you'll be the first to model that behavior, and you begin to see a change. You begin to see that intimacy build. So I'm going to read some of the comments. Wumi Akintoke says, talk to him or her before another person. Absolutely. That's conflict resolution 101. You don't want to resolve a conflict with someone and then going to another person first. No, you have to report that person to that person first. So if you do something that I don't approve of, or if I feel hurt, I'm going to tell you first before I tell another person. If I don't get a headway with you, that's what the Bible says, and we should follow that. Tolu Lokweshoboye just says, study the word of God, build yourself by reading books. Absolutely. Don't tackle the person, tackle the problem. Thank you so much. And the authentic woman says, it takes two to tango. Feminix Soap says, choose your words. Welcome, Feminix Soap. Olayemi Akinlotan says that you can't control an adult. Absolutely. Nobody can control an adult. You can model what you want. You can be a good example. And that person, through your character, will begin to have a change of mind that, wow, upon everything I've done to this person is still treating me nicely. Unless the person is crazy, that's when the person will not see it. But if that person is normal, psychologically normal, there's no way they won't notice and they won't want to be, that person that is listening. Nobody wants their marriage to break. So intimacy is something that you build over time. It is something that you have to be intentional about. Don't wait until the kids leave the house before you realize that you don't have a relationship with your spouse. Make sure that you're doing it right now before your kids go to college. You become an empty nester, and you need each other in old age. When you grow old, my husband and I, we already talk about, what are we going to do when the kids, sometimes I joke, I say, I don't even know what will happen when these kids leave. There will definitely be a gap. And guess what? Don't stake your happiness on one person. So don't make your husband or your wife responsible for your entire happiness. That's a lot of that's a lot of expectation to put on one person. Like, you're just expecting that your husband and your wife would make you happy 100% of the time. No, that expectation is for angels. And because your husband or your wife is a human, we have flesh, we have blood flowing through our veins. So there's a little bit of imperfection that comes with this package that you need to understand. And if you're looking for perfection, if you're looking for someone that meets your expectation 100% of the time, please, you might need to go to heaven. There are plenty in heaven, plenty of perfect people, holy people. They do as they are expected, they wake up every day, they are praising God and all that. But in this part of eternity, this equation called life, you have to expect some level of imperfection. Thank you for tuning in, Engineered by God. You have to expect some level of imperfection, forgiveness. And forgiveness is not just saying that I forgive you for now and then something happens in the future and you remember that's how you did in 2003, and the person is going like 2003. What did I do in 2003? If you forgive someone, you forgive them completely. If you love someone, you always walk towards satisfying the person. All right. So I led this session for 1 hour. I'm very happy we could do this. Thank you, Engineered by God, for tuning in. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. At this point, I would say that leave your questions. If you have any questions, you can leave your questions in the comment box. I really appreciate you. I don't know what happened to our guest. We're praying for her and we hope that she's okay. I'll definitely reach out to her after this session. Our guest could not make it, so I had to fill in. And guess what? This filling in, my husband taught me, because there was a time that one of the guests came and the network disappeared. You know, we couldn't bring him back on the show, and I had to end the show abruptly, like after 30 minutes. My husband said, no, 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 next time you run the show by yourself. So always be prepared to run the show if your guest is not able to make it. So I hope I was able to pass one or two things to you today. And guess what? This will be the last SA show for this season. We're going to come back Saturday, August 7, by the special grace of God. We're taking a break. It's summer and there are a lot of activities and things that need to be done. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. So the next time you'll be seeing us on this show will be August 7, Saturday, August 7, by God's grace. So we're going to have the SA show on Saturday, August 7, August 14, and then August 21st will be our Power Woman Experience Conference. That's our yearly conference. The registration is already open. It's free to everyone. Please, please, please register via the powerwomanexperience.com. The registration is free. If you want to support us, just go to our website. And yeah, so until next time, I would say be exceptional, be intentional, and be on point. I'll catch you all later. Bye.